in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
With the team not willing at all to trade him and Rodgers not retiring because he likes to play football, this has been the expected outcome. So my understanding is Aaron Rodgers has indicated to people close to him that he plans to play for the Packers this year. Now, the fact that General Manager Brian Gutekunst, Mike, said just a couple minutes ago that they are hopeful for a positive outcome. We are finally seeing some optimism in Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers moving forward. A big 24 hours to come.
And he shows up wearing an Office T-shirt and like some Bret Hart sunglasses from the early 1990s and flip-flops.
He's the king.
So he's back.
I love him.
He's got the slick back California hair, just like Judd Zolgad has.
Oh, God, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. He is absolutely in charge. All of you people with a meaningless piece of paper saying you own the Packers,
See?
I'm going to tell you who owns the Packers.
Told you he was coming back.
Aaron Rodgers owns the Packers. Brett Favre wishes he could have been in control like this.
Wait, here's a question. You're not allowed usually to have ownership stake in a team if you're a player.
Right.
If you're a Packers player, can you buy one of those $150 certificates and technically be a Packers shareholder? Like, what's preventing you from doing that? David Bakhtiari, like, who's going to stop him from buying
right. You know what? I wonder if it's not really like a percentage. Because, like, if you just own a piece of paper.
No, it's not.
Which is.
You don't actually own any.
Which is just a scam. You probably can buy as much as you want. I own 5 pieces of paper.
Yeah.
Screw you.
This is Mackie and Judd. We should start selling ownership certificates for Mackie and Judd. If you want to be an owner of Mackie and Judd, just write a $200 check to us. I don't know, we'll figure out what to do with it, but just trust us. Trust us.
I'll end up in jail for that little endorsement. Mackie and Judd from Stillwater.
Daily Minnesota sports entertainment, and we want titles. And part of that process is holding people accountable and praising people when it's due. As part of this Tuesday segment, who gets it and who doesn't? Our executive producer, Declan, right on the NFL Films music. Love it. I'd like to start you guys off here. I teased this yesterday. A who doesn't get it?
Uh-oh.
Is there a less inspiring owner of a professional sports team than Jim Pohlad?
Oh, Glenn Taylor.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I didn't say worse. I didn't say worse. Glenn Taylor's a worse owner. I said less inspiring. Glenn Taylor sits courtside in his flashy sweaters. He's like he cares. Like Glenn cares about winning and the Timberwolves. He's just like a bumbling sports owner idiot who doesn't know how to get out of his own way. All right. I mean, Craig Leopold, we've sat in that. We've been fortunate enough a couple times to sit in a company suite next to the Wild ownership suite. He's sitting there just sweating every shift and banging his program on the chairs.
No, Craig gets it. Like, the moves aren't always right, but he gets it.
Yeah, and again, this is not a referendum on if he's a great owner, Craig Leopold, or not. He's just like, he's engaged. He's curious. He's passionate. The Wilfs will sit down there in the corridor of the stadium outside the locker room after a big game and like high five all the players and the coaches and stuff, right? You got Steve Ballmer out in Los Angeles and Mark Cuban just having convulsions courtside during games. And then there's Jim Pohlad, the most indifferent human being that's ever walked the face of the earth and owned a sports franchise. These are a couple snippets from the Athletic Q&A with Jim. Just, hey, it's almost the trade deadline. This is a train wreck season. Although the questions were there was like 6 or 7 sort of softball, like, so, like, how's the fan experience, right? Sort of buttering him up. And then we get to the heavy hitters, all right? Mm-hmm. The Athletic asks, as a fan yourself, Jim, what's your takeaway on how the season has gone for a team that had lofty expectations? What's your message to fellow disappointed fans, right? And like, just to pause for a second, this is the most disappointing season in my life watching the Twins. Probably in Judd's life, like, in terms of expectations versus what's been delivered, this has been a colossal disappointment, right? And Jim says, well, my message to fans would be, it's one of those years. I'm not sure a whole lot has gone right for us, probably in mostly invisible ways.
What?
Invisible ways. That's
he does add, I don't think there's any player that's playing up to their personal expectations. But I'm not sure a whole lot has gone right for us, probably mostly in invisible ways. It's visible.
It's pretty visible, buddy.
Very visible.
What are the invisible ways? What was the follow-up question? So, Jim, what are the invisible ways in which things have gone wrong? Because that's really the follow-up question.
It was not, unfortunately.
Okay. I would love to know what he thinks is invisible. Everything is not only visible, but it makes you want to puke continually. So, yeah, it's visible.
Well,
that's ridiculous.
is he referring to like the COVID outbreak at the beginning of the season? Like, is he referring to injuries? That, hey, if guys are out, it's sort of an invisible cloud. I don't know.
Maybe, but if he is, he's lost me completely.
Here's another question. How much motivation is there to end the Twins' playoff losing streak? All right, 0-18 over the last 17 years. Mm-hmm. And that's not series, that's games. Baseball, a very 50-50 coin flippy sport, just like hockey. And they haven't won a playoff game since 2004. And Jim says, I don't put much into that. Let me stop you there. You should. It's a dubious record to hold, or a streak, or whatever you want to call it, but it will come to an end, and I don't think there's any underlying reason for it.
This, you know what this gets back to, though? And, I mean, nothing changes here. It gets back to...
I guess, well, whatever. We'll just try again next year.
It's a lot... This is... Now the context of what went wrong was different back then, but this is a lot like, was it 2016 when Chip Scoggins, sat down with Jim and he's like, total system failure, just not really working out for us. It's too bad. We'll be back next. I mean, this is Jim. And yeah, I think, Phil, that you put it best a long time ago, and you've reiterated this since then, but he's just not curious. Like, he doesn't really have an interest in finding out the why. And it's just, I mean, it is just comes off like a hobby. And when it goes well, that's great. It's awesome because I like to go to the games. And when it doesn't go well, it's just like, it's one of those years.
Totally. It's like, I think
tax write-off.
This week I saw people hitting us up on Twitter or on the YouTube comment section like, you guys have given Jim Pohlad a pass. It's like, there's some nuance in the way that I personally have talked about Jim. When it comes to spending, like, I've always been realistic. Like, this is not the NFL or the NBA where there's a salary cap structure, where there's a ton more revenue sharing. The Yankees and the Red Sox and some of the other big market teams, the Dodgers, are bringing in hundreds, millions of dollars more than the Twins in some cases. TV deals. So, like, why don't the Twins go spend on this free agent? Because the Dodgers wanted him. Like, I don't rip the Twins for that. I rip them for stuff like this, the ownership group. Lack of curiosity, lack of passion. Like, how long did they let some of those Terry Ryan, Bill Smith front offices just languish behind the times for like 6 years? Like, okay, I guess we should probably get an updated computer system, or like, it's like they're 10 years behind the times.
We got media guides, dude. We can find people in media guides, okay? Just don't worry about it.
So I don't put much into the playoff losing streak. It's a dubious record to hold, or a streak, or whatever you want to call it. But it will come to an end, and I don't think there's any underlying reason for it.
I've spent more years on this planet watching Twins playoff losses than I've seen a playoff win. Almost 30 years old.
By far. Yes.
By far. Over half. Like, not even just like, 51%. No, like 2/3 of my life has been spent watching playoff losses.
And by the way, Jim, your father oversaw, no matter what we think of your dad, not one, but 2 World Series championships. Like, your old man was the owner of a team that won 2 World Series. So somebody was doing something right. Like how do you watch your dad buy this team, win 2 World Series, and now you're just like, we've lost 18 consecutive playoff games. It's just too bad.
Dude, Jim is the real-life incarnation of the shoulder shrug emoji on your phone.
I will say this, though, Phil, to the point about paying guys and not, and I completely agree and get it. You know what? If the Yankees or Dodgers or some years the Red Sox say that we're going to get a guy, they're going to probably get him. I will say that's going to change for me, though, if both Barrios and Buxton either walk and or both traded.
I agree
At that point in time, I think we can get into a real discussion, because when you have homegrown talent and you are willing to trade it because, can't keep it, that there's some questions to be asked about that. That's very different than guy that plays for the Marlins who's going to get a huge contract from the Yankees, talks to the Twins, and they don't get him.
I will add to that point, too. Jim Pohlad oftentimes lies about payroll. Like, if it's all on the up and up and say, listen, we're always going to have, like, the 10th to 22nd payroll, depending on where we are in terms of, like, rookie contracts and stuff. We're not going to go above a certain point. So, yes, we have. If he were to say, yes, we have framework and we have limitations, and we tend to keep those hard lines internal, but whenever he's asked about it, he was asked about payroll in this article, too, and he's always very vague. And then when he's asked, like, do you ever mandate payroll restrictions, he always says no. No, you do.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. Like, I understand it. I'm not gonna expect you to take a $50 million loss on a baseball season. You're a businessman. I understand that. But don't lie. Don't say that, like, and even the front office, going back to Terry Ryan and Derek Falvey will do this too. It's like, well, we're never turned down by ownership. That's not true either. You're telling me 13 years, $300 million for Bryce Harper, like, you knew that was going to be a no. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Don't lie. You don't have to lie about it. Oh, man. Anyways, who doesn't get it? Jim Pohlad. Who gets it? Who doesn't?
All right. I'm going with a positive one here because Phil's so negative. I'm going with a who gets it.
Okay.
Who gets it? And you know what? This is a perfect time to give a proper send-off to a guy who got it and did a fantastic job in 2+ years here, did everything that was asked of him, was on back-to-back AL Central Division Championship teams, which, of course, did not win a playoff game. But Nelson Cruz gets it. Like, Nelson Cruz did everything that you could have possibly asked for a guy to come in. And you know what? I mean, God bless him. He tried his hardest with Sano. Like, if you look at what he came in here and did immediately, especially what we saw firsthand in 2019, right? He worked with Miguel a lot. He did. It might not have worked, but he tried. He was an older player who easily could have gotten by saying, well, I'm going to come in and try, but you know what? I'm here to lend a voice of leadership to the locker room. But, he comes in and puts up enormous stats, was, as far as I was concerned, a pro's pro here. Nelson Cruz, I hope you win a World Series. You probably won't in Tampa, but I hope that you win a World Series. I hope that you have a great playoff. And as far as expectations and all the guys who we have seen take contracts and sort of just be like, okay, I got my contract, or okay, I'll just play out the string, did a fantastic job. He deserves a ton of credit.
Yeah, I'm a Rays fan right now from now until the end of the season. Would love to see that guy get a ring. He's got some postseason demons from 10 years ago, botching a play in the outfield that could have earned him a ring. So he's really, like, just become one of my favorite all-time Twins players, and not shocking because he is the greatest hitter in Twins history. Now he'll become the greatest
Mariners
hitter in Rays
too.
history.
Yeah, Mariners fan.
I don't know if you compare his OPS to
Edgar
Griffey Jr.
Martinez and
Griff, you might have a higher.
God.
Oh, I
Edgar
thought you were going to go.
Martinez.
I thought you were going to put him above those guys too.
I'm using statistical
Right now,
analysis.
Nelson
I'm using
Cruz,
statistical
greatest
analysis.
hitter in Rays history too. Take that.
You're just going off of your 50-year-old drunken whims watching baseball. I'm using statistical analysis.
51, okay? 51. Clean it up. Get the facts right.
Sorry. By the way, speaking of drunken and whims, I just want to say, okay, PXG, you don't want to go there and be drunk because you're gonna fail to appreciate some of the great golf clubs that they have to offer. But I would recommend going out to PXG Minneapolis and finding yourself some of these Gen 4 clubs, the best performing clubs PXG has ever made. This is a golfer's paradise. It's a mecca out there at Southdale Center. PXG.com/Minneapolis if you want to peruse around and snoop on the internet. PXG Minneapolis in Southdale Center. All right. Declan, who gets it, who doesn't?
All right, I got a who gets it. It is one of the most plugged-in NHL reporters in the land, Elliot Friedman. On your Mount Rushmore of NHL plugged-in reporters, maybe you're Schefter. You could make a case. Might be the Schefter of the NHL. I think you can really make that case.
Does he have a short shirt?
Sources tell me, but he's more Canadian, so it's more of my sources tell me there. He's got a thick Canadian accent.
He's got great hair too.
Great hair. Yeah, he has not shaved it. I think since the pandemic, he was getting ragged on ESPN last week.
He finally shaved it off. I think.
Yeah, but he was on Sportsnet in Calgary yesterday. Now, the Calgary Flames have nothing to do with the Minnesota Wild, but obviously NHL offseason is a go, so they were asking him about the Jack Eichel market. There's maybe a little Flames, pun intended, that he could be winding up in Calgary. But the Calgary Flames host on Sportsnet asked him, who do you think the favorite is to get Jack Eichel? And this is a minute long, but this is what Elliot Friedman had to say.
I think the team that really kind of wants him the most is Minnesota.
Okay.
But it's tricky, I don't know if you read Scott Burnside's piece on The Athletic today, but it certainly hinted at that. Scott was entombed with them, I guess, in their draft room, and I think that it sounds like they talked about it quite a bit. The problem with Minnesota is they have those big cap hits for the space for where they bought out Suter and Parise, and if they wanted to acquire, they have the assets to acquire Eichel. They can do it. I think the biggest thing is that either Buffalo or someone else would have to take a player or two off their cap so that they could make it work. But, right from the beginning, people have always said to me, the Rangers are an obvious one, but people have always said that Minnesota likes it and would love to do it. It's just a really tricky deal.
Ooh.
So Elliot Friedman coming in red hot.
Speculation.
And that's like orange to red level speculation from Friedman. He's not just throwing that out there like Judd and I do, and we throw out our crazy trade ideas on Judd's hockey show. But that is some serious speculation from Elliot Friedman here, and I do think a trade could possibly go down pretty soon. Scott Burnside from The Athletic sat in the Wild's draft war room over 4 days over the weekend and detailed what it was like, and they were going over possibilities with Jack Eichel, with medical evaluations, and there was players on boards that they could possibly move. Obviously, they were not named, but I do think that this is percolating to Jack Eichel winding up with the Minnesota Wild, and Elliot Friedman absolutely gets it.
Wow. So you're saying he gets the reckless speculation lifestyle.
He gets the lifestyle. He gets how this works. He knows that the Wild are a player away.
He sets the tone
he
for
does.
reckless speculation. So if they're going to do that, they'll probably have to, because they have to get players out then. So they would probably try and stick them with Rask and maybe somebody else.
Fantastic.
But I don't know if Buffalo would take that. That's why he's being cautious, though. The tricky part is, what would Buffalo take back?
Well, how long is Rask's contract right now, and what does he make? Do you know off the top of your heads?
$4 million for this year, and I believe
there's a couple years left. I don't know.
I think there's 2 years left of 4.
But see, Buffalo, if they made this trade, and they're always rebuilding, they've been rebuilding for 20 years.
They're a mess right now.
But if they made this trade, they could, they're not going to win for a couple years anyways, minimum. So I think they'd be willing to take on like a 2 or 3 year, like a Rask contract or something, if they're getting all these younger assets. So,
but I think it's possible.
They'll probably want more assets for that, though. So yeah,
The Wild did trade up.
Speculation.
Trade up to take a goalie right on Friday.
Yep.
They took a goaltender in the NHL draft, which is rare.
They'd send him Capo in a heartbeat.
Well, maybe
they're going to want Boldy. They're going to want Rossi. I guarantee you, they are asking for more than we think.
Maybe they took that goaltender with the thought that Buffalo could be getting a nice prospect goaltender at 20th overall that they can build around in a few years. So maybe just there's options out there.
I told you guys, I'm out.
There's options out there.
I'm not doing it.
Okay, I know.
I'm not doing it. The fun place is shutting us down.
Reconcile those thoughts when Jack Eichel is wearing a Wild sweater in March after he recovers from surgery, but just in time for the playoff stretch.
Love it.
All right, who doesn't get it? I'm being doubly negative here today. Madden 22 doesn't get it. Here are the top 10 wide receivers as graded by their Madden scores for Madden 22. Devontae Adams, 99 rating. DeAndre Hopkins, 98 rating. Tyreek Hill, 98 rating. Stephon Diggs, 97 rating. Julio Jones is like 32, 95 rating.
God. Just reputation, man. It's all reputation.
Michael Thomas, 94 overall rating. Keenan Allen, he's fine, 93 overall rating. Amari Cooper, 92 overall rating. Mike Evans, 91 overall rating. And Allen Robinson, a 90 overall rating. No Justin Jefferson.
You forgot Justin Jefferson at 5 on the list.
No, that would be Julio Jones, who's 53 years old now.
He's not older than me, and I'm still good, so.
I just, listen, I think by the end of the year, whether it's Madden, whether it's PFF, whatever the ranking system is, fantasy football, barring an injury, I think Justin Jefferson will be bona fide top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. And I think I actually kind of like the shade that's being thrown at him. This is like the third ranking list that's come out where he's been, either left off or too low or whatever. And I think he's the type of dude that uses that as positive fuel, which can be cliche, right? Like whiteboard material. No, I actually think he's the type of guy that can use this in a positive way. So bring on more snubs before the season if it helps Justin Jefferson go off again in his second year.
Sleep on him. That's awesome. Just keep thinking, it was a good first year, but nah, you know what? He's good, but not great. Keep saying that.
All right, who gets it? Who doesn't? Judd.
Who doesn't? Our old friend out east now, Chuck Fletcher.
Oh.
I just got to go through with what Chuck has done in the
Rami.
past week. Rami, no.
I thought I was going to say Rami.
No. I mean, he doesn't get it on the stadium front, but he's so hopeless, I'm not going to bring him up.
Sure.
So Chuck Fletcher, our old friend, who, by the way, is making waves, some of them positive, with the Flyers because he is acquiring talent. He's acquiring known commodities. So what's Chuck giving up the Flyer fans aren't thinking about? Just like Wild fans didn't think about. He's giving up the team's future. In the past week, he traded 2 second-round picks, a 7th-round pick, okay, and the 13th pick in this year's draft in trades to land known commodities to attempt to win now. Now, if you're in Philadelphia, you're like, oh, this is awesome. You're bringing in talent, and who cares about draft picks? Well, let me tell you, kids in Philadelphia, I know you hate me already, but that's okay. But I once thought the same thing that you did. Oh, man, deadline trade. This is fantastic. The Wild's going to make a Stanley Cup run. And the next thing you know, you go into a draft literally with like 3 picks in the whole damn draft, okay? So who doesn't get it? Who hasn't learned their lesson? Chuck Fletcher. Mortgaging your future, and by the way, by doing so, cheap contracts is how you get fired. And Chuck did not learn that lesson here, and it's clear he is not learning it in Philadelphia.
Yeah. The good news is, if he gets fired, Burnsville Heating and Air is hiring for all different types of expertise. Or
heck yeah.
You can be an apprentice, or you can be a finisher wherever you are when it comes to new construction sites and HVAC installation. They will train you on the job. They're giving up to $2,000 sign-on bonuses, full-time year-round work with lots of overtime opportunities. And even if you don't live anywhere near Burnsville, that doesn't matter. They'll find work sites within 10 to 20 minutes of your home, so it's convenient for you. If you would like full-time employment, if you're a GM of a hockey team that's worried about his job status and you just want a backup plan, BurnsvilleHeating.com, click careers. BurnsvilleHeating.com, click careers. One of these times it might work for Chuck, though, where he just mortgages all of the future and finally stumbles into a Stanley Cup championship.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
But have fun with that, Flyer fans. You guys in Philly deserve only the best.
The Chuck Fletcher playbook. Mortgage the future, bring in known commodities, sign them until they're 39 years old.
Ristolainen's okay, but
Rasmus Ristolainen is not worth 3 draft picks, and especially the 13th overall pick.
No, and people are all excited about it.
Remember I said Buffalo was dumb last week for making trades? Now Buffalo looks like a genius. They got They gave up Rasmus for 3 legitimate picks.
The Buffalo GM is not the fool that the past ones were.
All right.
Tim Murray, who was Fletch's favorite guy to trade. Every time Fletch wanted to make a trade, he'd call Buffalo. He'd call Tim Murray, and they'd work out some godforsaken deal.
Chris Stewart for a first-round pick. Yeah, it happened a lot.
All right, who gets it, who doesn't? Back to Declan.
All right. I got another who gets it, and it's Vikings defensive back Pat Peterson. Patrick Peterson seems like a media darling. The dude it seems like a smart guy. He's got his own podcast. He's obviously a very, very successful cornerback. Maybe not Hall of Fame, but at one time, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, and he looks like he's going to be a very influential person in the locker room for the Vikings. And then the other day, actually yesterday, I should say, he was asked if Chandler Jones, his former teammate in Arizona, who has requested a trade and wants out, He was asked if he'd welcome Chandler Jones on the Vikings. And Pat P said, no doubt about it. Chandler Jones, a defensive end. You could fill in that need on the other side of Danielle Hunter. And Patrick Peterson just continues to speak the truth, whether it's things on the field or off the field. And I admire him. So I think Patrick Peterson, he absolutely gets it.
Okay, so Chandler Jones, he's now 31 years old. At one point was one of the best defensive linemen really in the NFL. Maybe even as recently as 2019. His production did drop off. He was banged up last year too, if I'm not mistaken. I think the question is, what would the asking price be? I've not looked at his contract. The Vikings do have some cap space, but they are looking for a more solidified option on the other side of the defensive line. I'll tell you, if they wind up bringing in Chandler Jones, then maybe the salary cap is fake, Judd. Maybe it is fake. Maybe Kirk Cousins' contract is just like this weird, magical, invisible
Don't go down. I saw these
thing.
tweets this weekend. I saw tweets saying, yeah, you guys all said they can't sign. How many times do we have to explain this? Like, it's not that hard. Look at the contracts. And by the way, this is a credit to the Vikings. The Vikings got a lot of reasonable deals. Like our whole point has been you can't sign the Joe Thuneys. Like, it's never been like Patrick Peterson on a one-year deal. No, don't do that.
Or the Carl Lawsons. Like, they wanted those guys, and they whipped on those guys because they couldn't afford them. Yeah.
But that's been, and like, I'm not trying to fight about this, but it's like there are things you can and can't do. And the Vikings signed a bunch of guys to what could be. I should make that clear because we don't know for sure. Like, Pat P might be cooked, hopefully, for the Vikings, and for the fan base, he's not. But you signed a bunch of guys to very team-friendly contracts, which is great if they work. Chandler Jones things intrigues me a lot. I guess here's my question. Are they going to be asking for, like, if it's going to be like a second-round pick again, I'm probably passing on that. If it's going to be a mid...
Really?
If it's going to be like a mid-round pick, we can start talking about that. I mean, 31... Can you tell me PFF-wise what his grade against the run game is as well, Phil? Because that's the Ngakoue thing that we ignored completely.
Yeah, he was. So last year, again, he was kind of banged up. I haven't done a full dive on this, but
sure,
he only played 280 snaps last year, and he had one of the lowest tackling grades in the entire league.
Okay,
but the year before that, as a pass rusher, he had 19 sacks and 75 total pressures.
Yeah. But the issue, to go back to Ngakoue as well, was the fact that this defense needs guys that will at least try against the run. Like, if you are going to sell out to sack the quarterback, Zimmer, you're going to have problems here.
Well, but if Tomlinson and Pierce are in the middle there, then you can sacrifice a little bit on the end.
A little bit, but you can't have a guy who's bad.
But I don't think that line's going to be a sieve with Armin Watson, whoever the hell else was on it last year. Like, it's going to be a little bit better than other guys.
I'm just saying, let's learn something.
Okay, Andre Patterson.
Let's learn something from Ngakoue. When you're a football guy like I am, a football guy who's going to be spending days in the heat and the sun watching practice and making evaluations, I just don't go willy-nilly because of a name. I am a student of this game of football.
Here's the good news.
And I just gave Phil time to look something up. Okay, go ahead.
His contract, you did. Professional move by Judd. His cap hit is $20 million, which is bad news in 2021. But he's a free agent after the year. Mm-hmm. So you could probably do something. You could restructure that thing, and they've done this with a couple contracts where they'll put some dead cap in future years, like voidable years, as they're called. Right. So you could rework this to fit under this year's cap. His base salary is $15 million, so you'd have to figure this out. But like, I would give up a second-round pick for that. I think the question is, who do you trust more, DJ Wanham or Chandler Jones? Like, every flaw that you could point out for Chandler Jones, you could also find in all of the other candidates who are going to maybe play
Stephen Weatherly,
right end,
who's probably going to get the first chance to start at right end.
I'll take Chandler Jones for a second-round pick.
Well, I'd rather have Jones, but I'd probably start at a third-round pick. I just don't want to give up a second-round pick again. Those first two picks are...
What's with the hair that you're splitting, though? Like, you're literally splitting like this weird
Yes, I'm
hair.
splitting up. Yes, I am. It's an important pick. Second round, you don't want to not have a second-round pick again.
Yeah, you could get another Toby Gerhart with that second-round pick. It'd be great.
There have been some good second-round picks, okay?
Tavares Jackson? Yeah. It's awesome.
He was the end of the first round. What are you talking about, right? Oh no,
TJ?
second round. Yeah, he was the end of the second round. That's right, because it was the Pittsburgh Steelers pick. That's right. Dex, I'm sorry.
Okay, I got to jump in for who doesn't get it, because there's semi-breaking news that it only adds to my who doesn't get it.
Nice.
So I was going to come in here today with who doesn't get it, and it was the Chicago Blackhawks. So yesterday, the Blackhawks ended up not tendering a contract to a pretty decent rookie. And I was kind of confused by it because I figured that this would be someone that the Wild could absolutely target, and I don't really understand what Chicago's trying to do here either. And now adding to this flame, just 5 minutes ago, the Chicago Blackhawks are acquiring Marc-Andre Fleury.
Mm-hmm. That's been rumored.
And apparently nothing is going back to the Golden Knights. So maybe it's not even that the Blackhawks don't get it. What the hell is Vegas doing?
It's shedding salary.
So they literally just said, here's the Vezina-winning goaltender,
yes,
and you can have him for free?
Yes, they're gifting him.
I think you're overvaluing goaltending, but that's a debate for another show here on Maggie and Judd.
Phil just called the Hawks and said, I'll volunteer to play goal for you all next season.
When the worst starting goalies in the NHL are also saving like 91% of shots.
Well, but look at the contracts of the two guys that the Golden Knights had in goal.
Well, yeah, one of them had to go.
One of them, exactly. And they had to get, and I think they're banking on Fleury finally, and they might be wrong, completely declining, and they just wanted to get rid of the contract.
They're getting some minor leaguer, Mikhail Hakkarainen.
No. Yeah, I'm telling you.
Hell that is.
They're giving him a way to try and create cap room.
I thought you were going a different direction with the Blackhawks because they definitely don't get it in a whole nother area.
Well, yes, they do.
Well, you know what?
That
leads to, in fact, off that point, the don't get it. The National Hockey League. So the Montreal Canadiens. So I forget the kid's name.
I love how this has just turned into like you guys bitching about hockey right now.
But this is a societal problem that I'm about to bring up.
Hockey?
So yeah, well, no, shut up. So the Montreal Canadiens. There was a kid who couldn't play in his Canadian Junior League this past year because they didn't play because of COVID. So he went to Europe to play. Was involved in he's a kid, sexual act with the girl, but he filmed it and like sent it to teammates unbeknownst to her. So like this is not a good thing. And what happened was he got in trouble, which is he should have. And he put out the message then before the draft. Don't draft me. I got to grow up. I got to get my head on straight. I think he said I'm seeking counseling. I don't know, but he basically said, "Don't draft me." It's a 7-round draft. Don't draft me. The Montreal Canadiens take him at the end of the first round.
Yeah.
On top of what you just brought up, Phil, which is the Blackhawks and the fact that an assistant video coach now 10 years ago was sexually abusing a player or players multiple. This sport has so much room for growth in just human areas. Like, forget the sport itself. But, I mean, when you see stuff like that, and what is Montreal doing drafting that kid with this Blackhawk story there? There have been, stories through the years in juniors that absolutely are horrifying when it comes to parents trusting their kids and the kids being sexually abused. It's just, come on.
Yeah, it's because winning and money and like the machine never stops, and teams just assume that we'll just plow through this and we'll just keep going and don't worry about it. This will all blow over, right?
Look like you care, right? Look like you at least look like you care.
It's all performative though. Like even if they
No, I know.
Like
football same way. You're right.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, just at least pretend like you care.
Or when a kid says, or actually care. Like,
well, sure, but I mean when a kid says don't draft me and he is accused and did what he did, and the league does not step in and say, you know what? No one's taking him. Like, it's not that hard. Just step in.
Anyway. You should just be able to remove yourself from eligibility, I guess. But anyways, that's who gets it, who doesn't. Mackie and Judd. Also powered by our friends at Federated. Federated Mutual Insurance Company has been around since the early 1900s. They get it. They absolutely get it when it comes to your business, risk management, all the tools and resources that they've been offering up. You can find a full list of industries Federated works with and protects at federatedinsurance.com. If you're a business owner, you're just looking to sleep better at night, looking for frontline protection, looking for updated policies because so many things have changed over the last couple of years. Federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours.